Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series premiere of Medaka Kuroiwa is Impervious to My Charms. Great series premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I was immediately super interested in this series just because I thought it was such an interesting premise. So I went into this knowing what the premise was, but obviously I don't know like how the story plays out. But yeah, it's a weird thing for me to say because I'm about to say because I've almost felt like it's almost like taking the tsundere genre and kind of like twisting it a little bit. It's not a 1-to-1, but it's just, and it's not like Mona's a tsundere. Medaka's kind of playing the role of a tsundere, but he's like a fake tsundere. So that's where it's like I don't know. I also don't see too many. I'm trying to, like, once again, I'm not an anime aficionado. I'm not the anime man. I'm not the anime min. I'm not well versed in all things anime. But, you know, I don't think I've ever come across anything with a male tsundere. I mean, it's like, I guess certain characters could probably be considered. I think Inuyasha could probably be considered a male tsundere, isn't it? Like him and Kagome's relationship. Never mind. Nevertheless, I'm going on a tangent. Either way, my point is, it's just like it. I feel like you don't always see that a lot of times represented, so it's such an interesting thing. I thought was so interesting too how Mona's like. I love the opening premise of just like ever since she was a baby, men, women, and children have been like enamored by her. So she's kind of going through her entire life, kind of being so loved and charmed by everyone to the point she was a kid playing hide and seek, and part of the group was just like, oh no, I'm just stand here, you can tag me, no, you can tag me next, you know. And she's like, oh, this isn't how you're supposed to play, but it's just like everyone's been obsessed with her as a, you know, since she was a kid. And I love how they represent that, where like she's that one baby at the hospital, kind of got this aura that like this like sprinkle to her, you know. I also did not realize, I didn't pay as much attention at the beginning. I didn't notice it until they brought it up later in the episode. I was like, wait, like they brought up Kawai, and I was like, wait, is that her literal last name? Because I think the teacher called her by her name, and I was like, wait, her literal last name is Kawai? I looked it up just to make sure I wasn't crazy. It is. Her name's Mona Kawai, which basically means like Kawai, obviously cute / adorable. So I was like, okay. I think that's something I don't always talk about either. Obviously, I don't know enough Japanese to like really always comment on that, but it's always there. Like names have so much meaning, not just in Japan, but in a lot of Asian countries. It has a lot of meaning. I mean, names in general have a lot of meaning, but it's just like there's a lot of wordplay there in Japanese like media that you don't always catch, you know. So it's always like the one I always think about is, well, Naruto Uzumaki. What does Uzu mean? Uzu means spiral. So it's like there's so much spiral stuff related about Naruto. So it's one of those things where like I don't always comment on it because I don't like I said, I'm not well versed enough in Japanese to always pick up on stuff like that. But I was like, oh, that's for pun intended cute that her last name is Kawai. But either way, but yeah, she's going through her entire life, and I even love later in the episode she has her own little theme song about being so very pretty. But yeah, we found out she actually is from Osaka, but she actually transferred to Tokyo, like, because that's what I was wondering. Because I was like, the way she was interacting with Medaka at first, I was like, wait, have you had to deal with this continuously? And it's like, no, it's a new development because Medaka only transferred to their school like 2 weeks prior. So she's been dealing with this for 2 weeks, whereas like everyone, like I said, is enamored by her. She's going to school saying hi to everyone, everyone's saying morning to her, and then Medaka kind of gives her like the stink face, and that's what bothers her so much because she even admits it. She's like, I've always had queen bee status, and my ego is actually getting bruised right now because everyone kind of falls towards me, but he doesn't like subside to any of my charms. She saw him like on his phone looking at like cat pictures and liking them, and she tried to do the whole cute cat thing, and he was like, no for meow from you or whatever, kind of turning the cat thing. I even love the guys being like, oh my god, he kept the cat bit going up and turned her down or something like that, because he's also gaining a little bit of the ire of some of the guys in the class, because they're like, how dare you turn down Medaka, she's so cute and adorable and amazing, how can you not be like seduced? And it's also because Mona's spending so much time paying attention to him. It's like, well, we're kind of your adoring fans. Don't pay as much attention to him. I'm curious to see if they'll take that in a dark direction as the story progresses, where it's just kind of like people might start. I mean, they kind of playfully have an issue with Medaka because of, like, you know, his relationship with Mona, but I could definitely see that having a darker turn as the series progresses, because Mona being so, like, captivating to people could kind of be to her detriment later on. Like I said, that just depends on how the story goes. This could easily be that type of story that has, like, a little bit of a darker element like that. Like I said, it just depends on how it all shakes out. Like I said, outside of the general premise of the story, I don't know what to fully expect. I mean, you have an idea of, you can have guesses of how it will play out, but I'm still interested to see how the story weaves and plays out. But either way, her every attempt to get Medaka's attention, and then you can clearly see every time he's pinching his, like, and I think that's so interesting. And I almost kind of wish I didn't go into this knowing the premise, because of that, I kind of already knew what Medaka's motivation was. Granted, even I was still learning stuff, because, jumping ahead a little bit, I knew, like, it was something like Buddhist monk related. My thought, because I think I read the premise being like, oh, he's training to be a Buddhist monk, not knowing he's the heir to a temple. So it's kind of like, it's kind of in his blood. He has to kind of take over, because he seems like he's like, oh, I'm from, like, this place, and he's like, there weren't really any girls my own age around. He's like, or I guess maybe not even older women, because older women that are, like, you know, maybe mom ages. The people that are around him, it was like they were senior citizens and a goat. That's kind of all we had. So we don't know where that stands. Like, maybe he doesn't have, like, I don't know if it's a thing of maybe his parents are gone and his grandparent, maybe a grandmother or grandfather runs the temple, or it could be a thing of he might not have parents and might just be, like, raised by the temple. So that's like, you're kind of a child of the temple and you're meant to take over. Either way, like I said, that was an element to it I wasn't expecting, because I was like, oh, like, so there's more. It wasn't just out of nowhere you want to be a Buddhist monk. I figured there had to be reasons for it, but it's like, oh no, you're literally the heir to a temple, so you kind of feel like you have no choice in the matter. So I thought that was interesting. But either way, like I said, Mona bringing out all the stops. It's like, oh, let me put up this poster so you can see my legs. Oh, I guess I'm just going to have to show my panties. And he's just ignoring her every chance he gets. Once again, from her. And I do think it's neat. Like I said, that's the thing. I wish I did not fully know the premise, because 90% of the episode is Medaka's perspective of, this guy just won't. It's like, why won't he fall to my charms? I'm doing everything. I'm like, I've got to bring out the big guns. Oh, I need to go to the nurse's office. Oh no, Medaka could take me. And then when she gets along with him, it's just kind of like pushing up against him. At one point, she even rips open her. Well, because I think it was later that she, like, ripped open, broke off the buttons to her top just to show off her boobs, and nothing was working. She accidentally falls on top of him, but, you know, even she's like, oh my God, I'm going too far. This is going too far. I'm sorry, I tripped. You could tell it is affecting him, but he's doing everything he can not to be affected. So they kind of fall, and he's kind of making sure she's okay. But this is where it really starts for her, because she's, like, seeing concern. Like, I think it's always been such a one-sided thing, love for her. It's like, yeah, people have confessed to me, people have liked me, and they, like, oh, brought me flowers. But it's always been a one-row thing of, like, she's so used to being loved. I think being on the receiving end, being the one that's putting it out there, is kind of something new for her. And so she's kind of like, wait, like, am I, like, falling in love with him? She's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make it my mission to basically make him fall for me. So at gym class, she's stretching. It's like, oh, let's stretch out together. And it's like, oh, he's still ignoring me. And everyone's talking about her stretches. She's like, well, tits and ass didn't work. I'm going to use the ultimate killer. And she, like, sweats, and then she, like, shows off her belly. But she's like, wow, even that didn't work. What is it going to take? There's an interesting element to this as well, because there's two other characters. Well, there's at least three characters we're aware of. There's a girl with the red hair, which I think is going to be like, this might be like Mona's best friend. We didn't really get introduced to her this episode. But there's those two other girls. They're in the intro, but we only see them, like, one of the girls, we see them one time in the episode. She's walking by Medaka and she blushes. And then it's kind of like, what was that about? And I was like, oh, is that like a potential Because I don't think this is a harem series, but I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think it is. I think, I mean, obviously at the heart of it is Medaka and Mona's story, but you could still have like maybe other potential love interests. I don't know what that is. I don't know whether it's a thing of Mona's finding out how she feels about Medaka over the course of the series, and maybe there's someone that immediately liked uh, Medaka the moment like he got here. I don't know if that's what her thing is, but there's that other girl who's kind of keeping an eye on things, being like, "Huh, what's going on?" She's there. She's there to notice when like Medaka takes off his shirt to give it to Mona. Because at first I thought she did that on purpose when she sprayed herself with water, but she's like, "Oh no, I accidentally made a fist. I didn't mean to do that." And she's just kind of embarrassed, even though she's kind of bared it all before. She's like, "This is going too far." She's kind of embarrassing herself, and he gave her his shirt. Because once again, he can't help himself. He is looking like she's not realizing. She's like, oh, I am. She kind of gets glimpses of it where she's like, oh, I actually am having an effect on you. But for her, it's just his scowling and his anger, just because that's his way of just like he's chanting to himself, like basically clear my mind, clear my spirit, because he's trying not to be consumed by the impure thoughts. And so, but that girl had watched that happen, and she keeps an eye on Medaka because she pops up later on, like I think at the end of the episode, looking at Medaka, and I'm like, not Medaka, sorry, Mona. The girl is looking at Mona, so I was like wondering, like, are we gonna find out, like, is it gonna be this interesting thing where one of the girls likes Medaka and the other one likes Mona? I mean, everyone's enamored with her, but I'm curious if she's just from the outside. Is she gonna be like the outside perspective of maybe she's gonna be the person that tries to like bridge both of them together? Like maybe she's going to take an interest of like, oh, I'm going to try and get Medaka and Mona together. I'm curious. Once again, we don't fully know where everyone's roles are, but eventually, two of the guys recurring guys throughout this episode approach Medaka about everything, and he confessed everything. And they're like, oh, so every time you're scowling, it's not like you're trying to be cold to her on purpose. That's just you trying not to be seduced by her. And even he's kind of like, well, because he brings up the whole thing like he's supposed to not give into his womanly charm, give into woman charms, because their relationships with women is kind of a big no-no all around. So you're not supposed to get close to women in general, but also no romance. And for him, it's like, well, they're like, well, you could just like, not be as mean to her. I mean, I think a friendship can still be something that you could let slide. And he's like, yeah, maybe. But then he's thinking like, he's like, oh, because he's never really been around a girl. Like the only girls he's ever really seen are the ones on TV. So he's like, even he's like recognizes like, yo, Mona's so cute. And he's like, am I falling in love with her? Both of them having an existential crisis about them falling in love with the respective person. Medaka being like, yo, this goes against everything I'm training it for. I can't be swept up by this impurity and these thoughts. And then Mona being like, yo, no, people fall for me. I don't fall for other people. That's not how it works. It's like, so, and him just straining, and everyone's just like, I see what's going on. Poor bastard's kind of going through it. They have a better understanding, and I'm curious, are they going to ever talk to Mona and explain like why Medaka is the way he is? Or maybe they're just like, well, Medaka confessed to us, like we probably shouldn't explain that, but maybe they will. We'll have to wait to see if Mona ends up finding out from them or anyone else, because it seems like they're currently the only ones who know Medaka's circumstances of why he is the way he is towards Mona. But that doesn't stop her from, I mean, once again, she's set on her mission of, I'm going to make you fall in love with me no matter what it takes. And it's like, and that's the thing. She's kind of throwing everything in the kitchen sink at him, at least, from the physical standpoint on the first episode. So you're like, where are the next episodes going to take us? Like, what other shenanigans are they going to get into for her to try and sway him to her side, But obviously, the whole premise of this is the more and more she's trying to make him fall in love with her, the more and more she's falling in love with him, which secretly he's falling more and more in love with you too. You're both heading in the same direction. You're just both so unaware of it and trying to fight it. But the more you fight it, because I always love that thing of just like, yeah, like you try to limit the effect you have on people or people might have on you, but there still is an effect. It's just no matter how much you try to like minimize it and make it, lessen it, it's still there. It's still an effect. It's still an impact. So I'm really, really interested to ultimately see where this all goes and how this plays out. But yeah, really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.